Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on email deliverability, especially in the Black Friday Cyber Monday season. It is recently 11 a.m. I think we can start our presentation. Thank you very much. And the first thing I want to say is why Black Friday Cyber Monday deliverability is the topic of today's webinar. Is it because the season is the time of increased sendings, which can lead to deliverability problems, but also to better revenue. So it is important to prepare your organization, your domain, and your server for the increased sendings. And as far as we know, in the Cyber Week season, the sales are increased by 6% worldwide, and the most of orders are made on mobile devices, which is why it is important to prepare yourself properly for the communication, especially the mobile communication, which are emails, for example, but also text messages and push notifications. And in this presentation, we are going to talk solely about the email communication. And it is also important to say that not only Black Friday is the hot season for email communication, but also another holidays like Christmas, Easter, International Women's Day, Valentine's Day, and so on. So we can treat this webinar not only as an instruction for Black Friday season, but also for another seasonal sendings. And we prepared some checklist what to do before we launch our newsletter campaign, increased newsletter campaign. The first part is going to be what do the marketing team has to prepare, and the second part would be what the technical team has to prepare. And I just want to remind everybody that within the organization, both of these teams have to work with each other so that the email communication is properly prepared and everything is configured well. Okay. So the first thing that is important before we even start sending our emails is list audit and hygiene. And what we mean by that. So first of all, we have to always manage properly our contact base, our list, our email list. And if you use our email apps panel, you have access to a certain report, and the report is the blacklist. And how does it work? If an email receives a hard-on status, most often, once, twice, or thrice, the address email of the recipient is being put on the blacklist, which is within the email app system on your account. And then any other email that you try to send to this email address that is blocked is going to be blocked by the system, and the address is going to receive a dropped status. And the list, the blacklist, the report is available in the panel on the account, and it can be exported to a CSV file. Then it can be analyzed on the client side, and the inactive or not existent addresses can be removed from the list, from the email list on the client side. And other statuses that are also present on the blacklist are spam complaint and unsubscribe. And spam complaint is a status that is received when the user of Yahoo or Microsoft inbox just marks the email as spam. We receive a notification and we present the data in our status. And unsubscribe happens when the user just unsubscribes from your mailing. If we have our list, we know which users unsubscribed or marked as spam or hardbound, so they do not exist anymore, for example. And we are working on the list. We deleted the hard bounces. We deleted the spam complaints because they don't want to receive our communication anymore. We also have to honor the unsubscribe. So if our client doesn't want to receive any emails from us anymore and they use this option, it is important to honor it and to remove them from the list at least in 48 hours, according to Gmail, so that they do not receive any more communication from us. Also, it is important to send emails based on user engagement. And what do we mean by engagement? engagement can be positive and it can be negative. In terms of email communication, positive interaction with an email means that the user is opening the message, clicking on the links that are included in the email, marking it with a star, marking it as important, manually moving it to the important folder. This is a positive interaction. And we also have negative interaction, which is marking as spam, unsubscribing, and moving manually an email to the spam folder. And based on this interaction that we observe, we should segment and divide our base accordingly, and then send our emails to specific segments and groups of receivers. And what we usually recommend is sending emails mostly to the active customers that are interacting positively with our communication, and using sunset policy for the users that are not very keen on interacting with our emails. Maybe they didn't open them in a long time. We will talk about sunset policy in a minute. Also, the unsubscribe mechanism needs to be compliant with Google and Yahoo requirements, and the requirements are as shown on the left side of the slide. Here you can see to list unsubscribe headers, list unsubscribe, and list unsubscribe post, and they need to be included in the email headers so that your recipient has an easy way to unsubscribe. And in practice, it just looks like a button at the top of your email that says unsubscribe. When the user uses it, they just have to click unsubscribe and then confirm that they don't want to receive the emails anymore, and that's all. And in Gmail's eyes, this is the easiest way to resign from receiving emails from a certain sender. The difficult way would be still using the unsubscribe link in the footer of your email, which then maybe redirects your client to some other landing pages, and it is not recommended anymore. So yes, an easy way to unsubscribe and then honoring the unsubscribes. Another way to maybe not, it is not directly connected to list hygiene, but it can help you build a better email contact base, is using a double opt-in mechanism when gathering the emails to your email list. And what does it mean? It means that when a client wants to subscribe to your newsletter, they maybe use a special form on your website. They put their email address in the special window, and then they received an additional email from you where they can confirm that they actually want to receive an emails from you as a sender. So they have to opt in twice to receive the emails in the future from a sender, and it ensures that the emails are put in your base maybe without any typos, without mistakes, that they actually exist because somebody has to log into the inbox and confirm. And and it demonstrates that the user is actually interested in receiving the emails because they had to put an effort in actually subscribing. And it is an easier way to receive consent for sending emails to a certain recipient in more according to the law. And here we have a slide that shows us how the sunset policy workflow should look like. Obviously, it will depend on the organization, and the workflow will maybe vary in between different marketing teams. But in principle, the first thing that you need to do is monitor the engagement of your users. If they are not engaging with your emails for a certain amount of time, for example, 6, 9, or 12 months, they're not opening the emails, they're not clicking the emails, we will try to reach them and re-engage them with a specific campaign. It can say, for example, hi, we haven't seen any interaction from you in a long time towards our emails, towards our communication. Please confirm if you still want to receive them. If not, please click on subscribe. If yes, and open this link, for example. And then we either leave the contacts in our base, or we remove them completely from the base, and we do not try to communicate with them anymore. And it is important to monitor engagement all the time while sending, because it will help us to differentiate between inactive and active customers. So this is what we recommend. But as I said, in different organizations, the procedure can be different. You just have to find a solution for yourself. And while we are at the topic of list segmentation and contact-based hygiene, we also have to say and explain why does the contact base can't be treated as a whole, as a one set. Well, the first thing that make the email addresses different from each other is a source from where they were sourced. So, for example, it can be from an online form, it can be from orders, but it also can be sourced manually in a shop, for example. It happens in some e-commerces. First, 10 years ago, they had only the shops, and the sales assistants were just getting email addresses from customers, and then they moved to e-commerce, and now they only gather contacts online, but the old contacts still exist in their base. We have different email providers, obviously, in our contact bases, global, local, and they have different algorithms and anti-spam filters that have to be known by the sender, and the sender has to apply the certain providers' rules when preparing for sending. What we already said, the contacts can have different activity levels, and by activity levels, we say if they opened, clicked, or didn't clicked or opened the emails. And by activity, we should also segment the email base that we know. The addresses can have different ages and histories, and that's also what we said in the first point. The older the address, they can be less engaged, and they should be re-engaged or deleted from the contact base completely. And the segments of contacts can have different sensitivity levels to mass mailings. That can be measured by looking at the data from previous sendings, if you gather them. And after we segmented our base, we performed the hygiene on our email list. We have to plan our sending, especially in the Black Friday, Cyber Monday season. The sending volume can be increased, and it usually is. And what do we do, and what don't we do? Never try to send all of the emails at the same time, especially if you were consistent in the past with your email volume, for example, daily email volume, and you know that the volume is going to be increased significantly. It is wiser to batch the sending, divide the campaigns into smaller segments, to control the rate of sending, for example, emails per hour, and to maybe later retry sending to addresses that received soft bounces. But the thing that we do not recommend is increasing the volume like out of nowhere, so that the provider doesn't treat you like you're a suspicious sender. And now we have the technical foundations. So the thing that marketing team should include the technical team in. So what we know, and what we know from last year's requirements from Google and Yahoo, and also now Microsoft, a domain that is being used for sending must be authenticated with SPF and DKIM, and also DMARC record at minimum with a PNON policy. The spam complaint level must be monitored. The domains should be aligned, and domain alignment is better shown on one of the next slides, so I will elaborate later. We also have to ensure that our emails are being compliant with RFC 5322 standards, and I recommend reading it on your own because it is a very long document with a lot of requirements. And of course, implementation of one-click unsubscribe. We've already shown you how the headers for one-click unsubscribe should look like. And it is being honored by Gmail, Yahoo, Microsoft, and also some local providers such as Polish ISPs. And also, the sender reputation must be constantly monitored, and the sender reputation consists and is being built with the sendings that you send in sending history, the bounce rates of the sendings, user engagement that we already said, the spam complaints that must be constantly monitored. If the unsubscribe option is easy and available, and the unsubscribes are being honored, and the providers also look at your contact base and search for possible spam traps and spam trap activity. And we will also talk about spam traps later on one of the next slides. So before we go into authentication protocols, we also have to remind everybody what is the difference between IP reputation and domain reputation. And IP reputation is the reputation of the sending server that you use to send your emails from. And it is important to remember that the IP reputation is being built with all of the sendings that are being sent from it, but the domain reputation is being built also with all of the sendings that are being sent from it, but all of the IPs that also are used for it. So if you use, for example, Google Postmaster tool, it is important to monitor which IP address and which server contributed to the certain reputation that is displayed on the graph. And IP reputation is a factor that should also be taken into account while choosing between shared and dedicated IP address. And we have the authentication records. We've already said that the domain must be authenticated with SPF, DKIM, and DMARC, at least in PNAN, so neutral policy. And to say shortly, SPF is a DNS record that says this IP address that is used for sending this email is authorized to do it from this certain domain. The DKIM record, it works with two different keys, a public key and a private key. They are placed on different servers, and the receiving server compares the keys. If they match, then the email is signed successfully with the sending domain. And then the DMARC record is telling the receiving server what to do with an email if it doesn't pass SPF or DKIM validation, and depending on the DMARC policy, it will perform certain actions towards the message. If the DMARC has PNAN policy, so neutral policy, the receiving server is not doing anything additional to an email, but it will report any disruptions. If the DMARC policy is being set as quarantine, then the email can be classified as spam, and if the policy of the DMARC record is reject, and then an email may be rejected when the SPF or DKIM is not present or configured properly for the sending domain. And here we can see how the domain alignment looks like. And when we say domain alignment, we mean the domain of the from address that we can see here in the from header. We can see also the domain of the return path address and the domain that is present in the DKIM signature. And if all of those domains match, then we talk about the full domain alignment. We can have partial alignment, and then the from domain can be aligned with either DKIM domain or the return path domain. We recommend that all of these elements are consistent with each other. Another authentication is BIMI, and to configure BIMI, the domain must have obviously SPF DKIM and DMARC record, but the DMARC record must be configured in either quarantine or reject policy. So the policy must be restrictive. And what does BIMI do? BIMI makes the logo of the company visible in the sender avatar, let's say. And how do we configure it? So first, all of the basic authentications, SPF, DKIM, DMARC in a restrictive policy. Then your logo must be registered in a proper organization, and then a FAUMC certification must be bought. After that, the record can be configured in some tools that are available online, and if your reputation is on a higher level, then Gmail is going to display your logo and the blue check mark in the recipient's inbox next to your sender. And after you hover your mouse on the blue check mark, then you will see the information in this frame. The sender of this email has verified that they own the certain domain and the logo in the profile image. And as far as we know, there's also an alternative to the FAUMC certification, the CMC certification. It doesn't require your logo to be registered, but then the blue check mark is not going to be shown next to your sender name. It is a cheaper option though than FAUMC certification. And yes, here we have the difference between dedicated IP address and the shared IP address. And when choosing between them two, it is important to know what your needs as a sender are. If you have higher email volumes, if you want to build and contribute to the server reputation on your own, and you don't want any other senders to make an impact on your IP reputation, then we would recommend dedicated IP address for the sendings. You can also decide to use a shared IP address, but then you will have to remember that then multiple senders are going to contribute to the reputation of this IP, of the server. It is easier though when you have a smaller contact base at the beginning, if you're still building it, to use the shared IP address, because sometimes the contact base and the email volumes may not be enough to build a reputation in the provider's eyes while using a dedicated IP address. So it is always important to know what your own needs as a sender are, what volumes do you have, what are your plans on expanding the contact base, and then choose accordingly. And we have the topic of email warm-up. If you decide to use a dedicated IP address and you never used it before, maybe your email domain, the from domain is completely new, you just bought it and you want to use it for the first time, it is important to do email warm-up. And what does it mean? It means that you start with smaller email volumes and then you gradually increase them until you reach your target volume, the maximum one-time volume of the sending that you want to send. And on the next slide, we have an example table with the email warm-up schedule, and it will be easier to show how it works. We start with a very, very small volume, for example, 100 emails per day, and then we watch for any bounces. We see there are no suspicious statuses received by our emails. We move to a bigger volume, for example, 200 emails per day, and the procedure is the same. We look at the email statuses, there's nothing suspicious, there are no bounces from the provider, there's no limiting. We move to increased volume, and so on, until we reach our target volume, which is, for example, 8 million emails. But It is also important to remember that email warm-up is required by most global providers, and if you do not perform email warm-up, you will probably be blocked by the provider or limited, and you will receive a lot of deferrals. So a new IP address, a new server, or a new email domain or subdomain requires email warm-up. If you are an email apps client, then we can also help you with planning the schedule for email warm-up. You can always contact us with this case. And after we prepare our domain, we prepare our server, we do email warm-up, we send our emails accordingly. Then we can be intercepted by the spam filters of the provider. Before it is received by the receiving server of the provider, the email will also be probably scanned or scanned by the anti-spam bots. Then, based on the specific filters for the specific inbox, it is going to be placed either in the spam folder or the inbox in one of the inbox folders. And obviously, option number one is what we want to increase our revenue and to increase the engagement of our users. And if our emails are not being properly classified, they're probably being placed in the spam folder, we can expect that the open and click rates are going to decrease because it is often the case that the links are inactive or the images are inactive in the email creation that is in spam. So it is one of the signs, but not the only reasons for the open rate or click through rate to decrease the spam classification. And we already talked about it briefly, that email providers are searching for spam traps in your contact base, not actively, obviously, but they will know if their spam traps are in your contact base because they will receive an email to it. And what is a spam trap? A spam trap is an email address that is active. It will receive an OK status when sent an email to, but it is not received by a real user. Spam traps belong to either email internet service providers, for example, blocklist providers, but also some smaller inbox providers. And if they see that you sent an email to a spam trap, they may block you and put you on their block list. And if your IP or domain is being placed on the block list, you will probably be bounced by some email providers because they use those block lists in their spam filters. And what does it mean that you have a spam trap in your contact base? It means that you're probably not using a proper way to gather your contacts on the email list. Maybe the list hygiene is lacking, or maybe the contact base was bought externally. And here we see that Spamhaus and Abusix, which are one of the biggest blocklists, are using spam traps to see which senders to block, and then Gmail, Microsoft, and some of Polish local ISPs are using those lists to decide if the email should be received properly or bounce. And here we have the list of some global email blacklists. And if it happened that you had a spam trap on your contact list and that you sent an email to it, and you are currently present on either Spamhaus, Abusix, or any other of the lists that are here on this slide, it is possible to delist yourself from the list, but you will have to remember that if you send to a spam trap again, you will be blacklisted again. And delisting from Spamhaus is actually automatic. And when they see that you are not still sending to spam trap addresses, they will remove automatically your IP or domain. But it is important to start sending only to active active customers, active users after you see that you are being blocked, so that they don't see any suspicious activity anymore coming from your IP address or a sending domain. And here we have some helpful tools to test and monitor your reputation. And one of the most important and helpful ones is Google Postmaster. And it is because most of the client bases, as for now, up to even 60% of contacts are Gmail addresses. And Gmail is displaying the data about the sender on their own portal. And the good news is that this tool is free and it's very easy to set up. And then you can monitor your IP or domain reputation, maybe not real time because the data can be 48 hours late, but still. IP reputation, domain reputation, and also spam complaints. So the spam rate from Gmail inboxes. Google Postmaster is not showing you the specific email address that marked your email as spam, but it will show you a percentage of emails from a certain day that it did it. And in the newer Google Postmaster tool interface, they also show you if you pass the 0.1%, which is like an okay level for them, or if you passed the 0.3% level of spam complaints, which will deem you suspicious, and they will look into your sendings, and maybe they will also decrease the IP or domain reputation. Another tool that we can recommend is MailChecker, and MailChecker is an email testing tool. You can use it by copying the email address that is present in the send email to box, send an email to it. It must be exactly as the same creation, the same email topic, the same sending address and email server that you're going to use in communication with your clients, so that it can be 100% replicated. Then after you send an email, you click on the check results button, and you will be redirected to a page with test results. And what does it check? It checks authentications, it checks email headers, the URLs in the email creation, the creation itself. It checks the reputation of the email server, if it's being listed on any block list. So a very useful, comprehensive tool to test your emails. And another very helpful tool, SenderScore. We usually use SenderScore to test the IP addresses used for sending, and it shows you a score. It can be from 0 to 100, and it also shows you a graph with your IP reputation. It is usually a month from the day that you are testing it, a month into the past. And it shows a line for the reputation, and it also shows the line for email volume. So you can see if, for example, the increased email volume didn't lower your IP score. Apart from the score, it also shows you if your IP address that you use for sending is not listed on any block list. And there are a couple of indicators, factors that it also measures. It's a spam trap count, it's spam complaint rate, but it also shows you a score from high to medium to low, so that you know if you transgressed in any way while sending. It also shows a factor that is called sender rejected, so a number of bounces, for example. But the provider of SenderScore does not say from which providers the data is being gathered from. And what to keep in mind during campaign sending. So after doing the hygiene list, after segmenting properly our contact base, preparing the domain, preparing the IP, doing the email warm-up, you start sending your campaign, for example, during Black Friday. What to look for? Well, it is important to constantly monitor the spam complaint rate. If you see that it surpasses, for example, 0.3% in Google Postmaster, because this is a screenshot from Google Postmaster, it is important to maybe stop sending for a while, segment the contact base better, see which sending exactly caused the spam complaint rate to increase, and make changes to your sending accordingly. It is also important to look into the email statuses. So if you use email apps, you have a log list for every email that is that was sent in a certain amount of time from your account, and there you can see which statuses the emails received, for example, bounces or deferrals. If you see that you sent a newsletter campaign, for example, and there are a lot of deferrals, a lot of bounces, it is important to maybe slower the sending, to maybe decrease the volume temporarily until you resolve the issue that caused the blocks. And if we are talking about monitoring the bounces, then we will need to know the differences between different bounces. And we have a hard bounce, soft bounce, and a spam bounce. And the hard bounce is being received by emails usually because the email recipient does not exist, is inactive, or maybe the email address of the recipient had a typo. And if an email received a hard bounce, it means that it is not going to, it should not be repeated, it should not be resent. This user is not going to be active anymore. Delete them from your contact base. A soft bounce usually means that there were some temporary problems on the recipient server, such as no space in the inbox, no space on the server itself. Then after some times, you can try to resend emails to those users. And a spam bounce means that your email was bounced because it was classified as spam. It usually happens when you are blocked by one of the global blockers like Spamhaus or AbuseX, but it can also happen when you haven't been sending emails to Microsoft provider for a while, or you increase the volume and they deem it suspicious, then you can also receive a spam bounce. One of the nice ways to differentiate a reputation within the organization is dedicated subdomains. For example, you have your main domain that you use for internal communication or transactional emails, invoices, order confirmations, password resets, registration, so on and so on. And you don't really want the marketing emails to be directly connected to this main domain. Then you can use a dedicated subdomain for this type of traffic. For example, at newsletter.domain.com, and then the email providers will know that yes, it is connected to this domain, to this organization, but it is used, for example, for sending marketing offers or newsletters. And what you can also do is still use the main domain, but use a different alias. So the part of an email address that is before the ad. For example, for transactional, you can use registration at yourdomain.com, and for newsletters, you can use newsletters at yourdomain.com. One of Polish local email providers, Wirtualna Polska, also looks for this differentiation in email addresses and bases the email placement in the inbox on it. I also recommend to use a completely different email domain for sending some policy updates, because policy updates are not very popular among recipients, and they do not interact with this kind of traffic well. So maybe not to cause your main domain reputation to decrease, you can use another domain for policy updates completely. What we also recommend is personalization and dynamic content. It is said that buyers and clients and recipients in general like receiving personalized emails more than not personalized emails, because they feel that they are more important, they feel seen, they feel that the email was crafted specifically for them and not to like some general population of recipients. It is said that open rate increases by 26% when the email content is personalized, and by personalization you can mean adding a name in the email header, in the greeting, adding a personalized recommendation within the email creation. That's one of the examples. And it is said that personalization and dynamic content increases open rate, and by increasing open rate, it can increase the conversion rate, and it also builds stronger loyalty in between a customer and the organization that sends an email, and there are fewer unsubscribes because the recipient feels a better connection to the organization, to the e-commerce that sent an email by using personalization. And if you're an email apps client, you can also use one of our newest addition to the new email apps panel, which is email campaigns section. And within email campaigns section, you can use a drag and drop creator to create personalized and dynamic content in your email creation. You don't need to know HTML to do it. You don't have to code your email creation. You can just drag specific elements of the email content in the empty blank space and create whatever you need within your email. So if you ever want to try and use our drag and drop creator, please contact our sales team and tell them that you want to test this new feature. And what we also recommend, and what we also have in this campaign, email campaign section, is the campaign booster. What does the booster do? The booster gives you the means to send an additional campaign after the main campaign. And for example, it can use some reminder email to those recipients that didn't click or open the email that was in the main campaign. For example, 2 hours after it ends sending, or 7 days. And it is also a built-in feature in the email campaign segment. And you can configure it while configuring the email campaign itself. And at the end, we have 5 common, maybe not mistakes, but pitfalls that we identified while seeing our customer behavior, the sender behavior. And the number one, this was my idea, sudden volume spikes, because we see in our support team a lot of problems caused by sudden increase of volume by our customers, by the senders. It almost always ends with limitations from the email provider, with deferrals, with bounces. So it is important to increase volume wisely and over time, not suddenly. And what we would not also recommend to do is purchasing lists and buying contact bases, and not using double opt-in, because it increases the risk of having spam traps in your contact base and receiving a lot of bounces while sending to the base that you have. What we also recommend is monitoring the engagement that we also said. The clients always, maybe not always, but often monitor engagement, but long after the campaign was sent, and maybe you don't have to monitor it in real time, but and not immediately after sending, but after each campaign, it should be analyzed how the clients interacted with the emails, and segmenting the next sending accordingly. And of course, we should not ignore any bounces. The bounces, actually, I recommend that should be monitored, maybe not in real time, but when the sending occurs, because then you can react in real time and maybe reconfigure your campaign, reconfigure some authentications on your domain, and react to the bounces as fast as you can. And yes, improper use of domains and senders. So you should really differentiate transactional emails from marketing emails. Maybe use different IP addresses, different domains, different subdomains that we already said. And if you have any questions, then you're most welcome to ask them in our chat. I can see that there were some questions before, but they were all answered by Natalia. Yes, you can use the subdomain in your return proof address. I can see that there are no unanswered questions, but Maria is typing, so I will wait for the question. My clients often have smaller lists, few thousands. What do you recommend to draw the line for several subdomains for this type of list? It depends on the type of traffic that is being sent, I would say. Because even if the list is smaller, for example, a few thousands, it also depends on the kind of, it depends on the kind of traffic that is being sent. Because if there are, for example, if your client is, for example, a small e-commerce or a site that sells something, then I am 100% sure that there are some transactional emails being sent and there are some offers being sent. So there should be at least a different, maybe a main domain for the transactional and maybe a subdomain for the marketing traffic, even if it's only a few thousand contact base. And it's also important to remember that the contact base can grow over time, and then you're already prepared for it. Maybe if, you're welcome. Maybe if it's not a very big contact base, you don't need a separate subdomain. For example, this newsletter, that newsletter, this type of marketing offer email. But it is always good to have a different domain or subdomain for transactional and for marketing emails, because marketing emails often impact your transactional traffic reputation. And those are the emails that the recipients always want to receive. So we'll wait a couple more minutes for some questions. Also, if you have any further questions after watching this webinar, maybe after it ends or on our YouTube channel, you can also always message us with it and we will try to respond and give any advice. As for now, I can see that no one is typing any questions anymore. So I think I would like to thank Maria and Björn for being active during this webinar today, for asking questions. Thank you for attending, and thank you, Natalia, for being here today with me and answering all of the questions in the chat box. I wish you a pleasant rest of today and see you in the next webinar. Thank you.